Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to review Straits' second album, Communiqué, the follow-up to their debut, released originally in '77, the debut, and this was released in '79. And I had this vinyl at the time, or early '80s actually. I bought my first copy, but I picked up this particular copy recently. And the thing to notice about this copy is the textured letter on the front, because I don't think, well, certainly my previous copy didn't have that, and I don't think the new 180 gram vinyl version has that, because I saw a copy in the shop the other day and I don't think it's got this textured, really nice textured letter. So that's very nice. And also my original copy didn't have this insert. There's no lyrics on this version, at least in my copy, but there's these nice pictures of the band. So the lineup on this album was the same as the debut. Mark Knopfler on guitar, his brother David Knopfler on guitar, Mark Knopfler singing of course, and then John Ilsley on bass and backing vocals, and Pick Withers on drums. This is on the Vertigo album, label, and I think it's a German pressing. And I must say I picked up a few second-hand German and second-hand Dutch vinyls in the last few years, and they tend to be in very good condition. Not sure if that says something about our European neighbours, look after their vinyl a bit better, but barely a scratch on anything that I bought from those countries. So this was the follow-up to their debut, and some people reacted negatively because the style was very similar, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because their first album set a pretty unique style and there wasn't really anything quite like it in the British music scene or the world music scene at the time, and this one does very much follow the same formula, but I think to great effect. And for example, the All Music Guide gives it 2 stars out of 5, whereas it gives the debut 4, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think they're both 4 or 4.5 star albums. I really do. And I like their later stuff, particularly Making Movies and some of Love Ever Gold and Brothers in Arms. But I think their first 2 albums are the ones I come back to most. So what else is there to say about this album? So Pick Withers and Mark Knopfler, in the same year that they made this album, also recorded Slow Train Coming with Bob Dylan. And David Knopfler here was to leave the band after this album. And they would continue as a trio, although I think they supplemented their lineup with a full-time keyboard guy. Whereas on this album there is some piano here, but there's no one credited as playing it, so I'm not sure who plays it. So, what is there to say about this album? Well, it starts off really well with Once Upon a Time in the West, and it would be nice to have the lyrics in here, but it's pretty well sung and easy to understand, and really nice lyrics in this one. Particularly like the line, "Sunday driver never passed a test, once upon a time in the West." So great opener, and a great favourite to do in concert, this one, showing off Mark Knopfler's usual superb guitar skills. And then News is the track that follows, and this album hasn't got many hit singles on it as such, but every song is well constructed, and there's not a weak number on it. And this track News is a good example of that, where it's not particularly commercial, or catchy chorus is not there, but I like it a lot. It's a great song, and Where Do You Think You're Going is just very emotionally sung, and very evocative. Don't you think you'd better go with me? I think it's really nice. Sung in Mark Knopfler's husky, sort of Dylan-esque voice, and very effective, and probably in my top 3 favourites on the album, this one. By the way, this album was recorded at Compass Point Studio in Nassau, Bahamas, where I had the good fortune to be last year, and I'll include a picture of me at those studios at the end of this video. Unfortunately, it's no longer a recording studio, but the sign is still there. So between 1977, I think it is, and 2010, it was a recording studio, and many famous albums were recorded there, including Back in Black by AC/DC. Can't remember which ones of Talking Heads, but I think it's more songs about buildings and food was recorded there, and maybe one other. Ringo's recorded there, Stop and Smell the Roses. The Stones have recorded Undercover there. I can't remember. You can look it up. There's a whole list of people, but the studio closed down in slightly controversial circumstances in 2010 because apparently some of the people were getting harassed. There was some homophobia around or something sinister like that. So, a bit of a sad end, but some great albums recorded there. And if I'd known that this album was recorded at the studios when I was there last year, and maybe I should have known, but I'd forgotten, I would have tried to do a video there. But here we are in my garden in Budapest doing it. But the atmosphere of that Bahamas location, I think, rubs off onto the songs. In fact, in one of the songs, you actually hear the sound of the sea coming in over the beach, and there's some nautical references in a couple of the songs. So it's very much evoking the peaceful atmosphere of Nassau, in contrast to the slightly less peaceful atmosphere of Nassau depicted in the TV series Black Sails, which I've been watching recently. The pirates of the Caribbean in the 18th and 18th century. So, Communiqué, the title track, is next, and as I say, no weak track on the album, but this is probably the least strong. It's a kind of got a bit of a reggae beat, and it's harmless enough, but no great shakes. And then side 2 opens with Lady Writer, which is, it has to be said, it's a little bit similar to Sultans of Swing. Kind of a carbon copy of that, but not as good, if we're honest. So maybe that's what the critics were going on about, that this album was just copying the predecessor, but I don't think that's fair overall. In the case of this particular track, they had a point. This was a single. You can see them performing it live on YouTube, or in front of a TV audience anyway. But there's nothing wrong with it. Angel of Mercy is quite commercial. Maybe it could have been a single. It's got a catchy chorus and very tasteful guitar playing from Mark and David. Portobello Bell is a very strong album track, as is the next song, Single-Handed Sailor. Again, maybe not single material, but the whole feel of this album is beautiful, and they just struggled to get such a natural feel to their music, and I didn't really like it when they went in the super commercial direction with the catchy hit singles of Walk of Life and Money for Nothing. I think the early stuff is better in that respect, and the stuff on Making Movies, because I think their first 3 albums are their best, is what I'm saying, and maybe out of those 3 I have a slight preference for the first 2. But I'm not sure, because I haven't listened to Making Movies for a while, so maybe I should dig it out, James Boyce, and rediscover it, because you told me the other day that it was your album to go to. So, okay, thank you for watching, and see you next time.